You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me today on this Friday review where I can't wait to get started. I want to share with you one of my favorite wintertime pre- and peri-workout nutrition drinks. I want to go over a little bit of fun research. That's what I'm going to bring you first. And then also our micronutrient of the week, our super nutrient of the week. Like I said, each and every Friday, I'm going to bring you the details, the research on different types of nutrients that each one of us needs on a daily basis, how you can get it from food, how you can get it from supplementation if you would need a larger dosage, and why. Because a lot of the time, you're not going to need a larger specific dosage, but you need to know why your body needs these nutrients in order to function at its best. Plus, you're going to be armed with the information that you need. That's the truth, is that you'll now better understand when you see a study coming out saying like this about vitamin E, good or bad, this about B6, good or bad, you'll know that things in the world don't live in isolation. You're going to start to understand that in natural medicine is not about handing out a nutritional supplement like a candy or a pharmaceutical drug that's like an isolated base pill that's supposed to help you. Like, oh, you take this one for fatigue, you take this one for psoriasis, this one for rheumatoid arthritis, this one for Hashimoto's, this one for Alzheimer's, this one for cancer. It doesn't work like that. That's not how natural medicine is meant to work, and it's starting to turn into that, which I don't like to see. I want to show you, by doing these Friday reviews, that each nutrient works in conjunction with every other system in your body, and it works with every other vitamin, mineral, amino acid, and you're going to learn that today. So really excited about that. So to get kickstarted with today's show, what I want to do is just share with you a fun little research study that I get a lot of news feeds sent to me every single day. I love reading research. I love reading, obviously, books and all that. But, you know, sometimes something catches my eye. We're like, I need to click on that. And so I've looked into a lot with anti-aging. And again, I brought you previous shows on how a multivitamin can extend your life by about 6.7 years. Just a simple methylated multi, not a multi that you buy at your local drugstore or Costco or one of those places. Not there, a functional medicine multivitamin. I've showed you how using an infrared sauna can cut down cardiovascular risk by 63%. By using an infrared sauna can decrease all-cause mortality by 42%. Those are all on the previous podcast. You can do things like eat a Mediterranean diet, which dramatically reduces your risk for cancer and inflammatory-based issues. Literally, I could go on and on and on, and I have and I will on future shows. But what I want to do is, this is a really fun topic that when they see a study like this, they don't know what to make about it. So there was a study, a Swedish study actually, and I know that I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm just going to get that right out of the way. It's called Uppsala University, UPPSALA. This was done by the Trofall, a Swedish study, and it was basically on dog owners live longer. And so I love sharing these types of studies because, you know, there's no diet involved, right? There's no infrared sauna or sauna in general. There's no special exercise routine. But what it showed was that owning a dog was actually associated with a 20% lower risk for all-cause mortality. That means 20% less chance of dying from all types of disease and a 23% lower risk from cardiovascular-based disease. So pretty phenomenal, I thought, to share. And this was also so this basically, because a lot of times they don't do this in studies, but it excluded age, male or female, marital status, income, which are very important. I mean, like it looked at all those statistics. It went across the board and said, okay, yes, based on all of these things people have in common, this was the decrease. Now, you might say, oh, well, okay, dogs just have some miracle power. No, it's not about that. What it showed in this study was that owning a dog did a couple things. So one, it got people walking the dog more. So they became more active. They were less sedentary. So now that improved their cardiovascular-based condition. We know cardiovascular-based issues are one of the one or two top leading causes of death. So really, really important to look at that. Now, the other thing, though, is it boosted mood, okay? Depression is a topic that we don't like to talk about in the elderly or talk about with people maybe living alone or getting older, any of these things. That's why so important to have social support. And that's what a dog provided. It provided social support and really a companion. Now, when you look at the blue zones, because I am an advocate of looking at, it wasn't just the diet. I mean, that's not what the blue zones is about. And again, if you want to check out my research on that, go to stevencabral.com/podcast. Just type in blue zone. That's it. Blue zone, it'll pop up on a previous show. I'll talk about specifically what I thought about that and all the different factors, because there's about a dozen that led to a longer life. Okay, and nutrition was a big part of it, but social support and community was another part of that. So let's just say you don't have the best social support, meaning like you don't really like your family. You don't really like your parents if they're still alive. You don't have a great group of friends. You don't really like your job, like all of those things. Well, usually a dog is one of those, as they call it, unconditional love-based companions. This could probably go along with a cat, but really, this is not the first study. This is multiple studies done with having a dog, and it's because they really, I have a French Bulldog. I love my French Bulldog, Moose. My French Bulldog before him was actually called Turbo. Amazing, amazing dog. We loved that. Before my wife and I had children, that was our child, was Turbo. Such a great, great dog. And he was a honey pied French Bulldog, and this was like before French Bulldogs were cool. This is like, let's see how many years ago. Probably about 16 years ago, if it was that long ago. Wow. It was somewhere around 15 years ago when we first got our first French Bulldog. And I grew up with boxers, and I've always loved having a dog. Yes, it's a responsibility, and that's why you don't want to just give someone a dog. It actually said that in the study. You don't want to just give your aging parent a dog, and that's because it actually would cause responsibility. And if they're not ready for that responsibility, that could be another form of stress, which is not going to help with longevity. So, yeah, I've always loved having a dog. I think I always will. I love the companionship. I'm a big animal lover in general. Why don't I do this? I'd love to show you a photo of Moose. If you go to today's podcast page, which is stevencabral.com/714. All right, 714 is today's show notes page. I'll put a photo of Moose in there, and then also a link up to the study as well. So really great. Love seeing that. All right. What I want to do now, though, is I want to move on to one of my favorites to give out. All right, it's cold if you live in a cold climate, wintertime, or you're just someone who likes to drink hot beverages. We never talk about that. We talk about smoothies, which are amazing. We talk about, juices. We talk about all these great things, and they are amazing. But what if you want something to warm you up? What if you want something, not just in the morning, what if you want something to warm you up before a workout? I think it's a great idea. I really do. Plus, you get the thermogenic effects, which means you really will burn more calories. And yes, you really will burn a little bit more body fat. Now, it's not going to be a game changer, right? That's not what it's meant to be. But it is meant to help you really help to burn more calories, speed up your metabolism. So the one that I want to share with you today is a little green tea concoction, we're going to call it, that I started recommending and that I've actually consumed myself multiple times. Now, remember, I'm someone that gets, even in the winter, I don't usually run too cold. I don't love the cold, that's for sure. But I usually have a little bit of that pitta in me, that the mesomorph comes out where I get irritable if it gets a little too hot. So, but I do still do this, and I really do enjoy it. I don't do it a ton. I'll share reasons why in the future, just because of lectin-based issues. But again, most likely you didn't have a history of mastocytosis like I did, and I recommend this for 99% of the population, typically going to be fine. Obviously, there's always a random 1% like myself. But again, I don't practice medicine based on me. I practice medicine based on the 250,000 appointments that I've seen at my practice with my team. And also, at the same time, based on the research and based on essentially real world results. So this is something I've done. I highly recommend. I've used it with well over 100 different private clients, and I want to share that with you today. Well, let me give you the drink first, the reason why I would give it to someone. Okay. So it's an amazing drink. You can drink it hot or at least right around room temperature. All you're going to do is use an organic green tea. You can just simply use a green tea bag, or you can use the filtered green tea leaves through a green tea or tea-based filtration-based device. Easy to do, right? I'll link them up in the show notes today. Simply, you're getting green tea, or you can even just use matcha green tea powder, which my wife uses literally once or twice a day. She loves green tea, really does. And again, if you've ever seen green tea, organic green tea, or if you can even get wild matcha powder, it is something. When you look at it, wow, this is going to be good for me. It is bright green. You can just see the antioxidants in it. And the studies behind green tea are really phenomenal. So this is what I do is I'll just put in the green tea matcha. And then you don't need to have a tea bag. You can just literally stir it around. That's the easiest way to do it. Then you can take it with you anywhere you go, or simply get a green tea bag. Now, what happens is with green tea, I don't want to get too deep into this, right? Because then I sound like someone that's obsessed with these types of things, but I am. I mean, I really get obsessed with all of these things. And there's been a request to have my wife on the podcast in the near future. She'll tell you about my obsessive personality. But when I get into something, I like to do it to the top degree. So I've read about tea and how all this tea ceremonies and how hot the water should be. But essentially, you don't pour boiling water over your tea bag or tea leaves or matcha powder. You wait till it cools just a little bit. And I can give the exact temperature. I'm not going to do that today because I don't want to show you my obsessive side right there. But just wait till it stops bubbling, stops boiling right from that tea water. Then pour it into green tea. Wait a couple minutes just for it to cool just a little bit. Then you can add your raw honey, your local raw honey, which is phenomenal. Just about a teaspoon. That should be enough to sweeten it if you like. You don't have to, but I think it's great for a little bit of pre-workout. That little bit, I mean, again, it's only 5 grams of sugar. That's it. Will really increase dopamine. It will give you a little bit of a boost. You'll feel great. You'll want to work out. And then you can also add some of the daily fruit and vegetable blend. Totally your choice. I talked about that on my green juice guide, which is totally free to download. I'll try to link that up today as well. You can do that just for more antioxidants. 22 fruits and vegetables, organic fruits and vegetables, easy to do. And then I'll do a pinch of sea salt. So I'm a big advocate of getting a little bit of those trace minerals in there. Not too much. You shouldn't even really be able to taste it. Just a pinch for those electrolytes, especially great for your workout. So now with the daily fruit and vegetable blend, again, your choice to do that, you would get very high in potassium. Now you balance that with a little bit of that Redmond sea salt or Himalayan pink salt. Perfect. Those two, sodium and potassium, balance each other. And then add a dash of cinnamon and or nutmeg. That will give it that nice little spiced flavor. You don't have to do that. Again, all these things are optional. All you have to do really is go into the gym with the green tea. Simple, right? But I like to add it, give it a little bit more flavor. Makes it a lot more fun to drink. Honestly, I do very much enjoy this myself. My wife makes it as a latte. So she actually will sometimes make her own cashew milk, or she'll make her own almond milk, her own coconut milk, like really into that. Or for the most part, we're just buying a really clean almond milk or cashew milk or one of those, which has 2 ingredients. And that is typically the nut itself. I know cashew is a legume, but it could be the nut or legume itself, and water. That's it. And so basically really pure, really simple, really clean. And then you can get one of those little electric things that just blends it up. And now you have a green tea latte. So again, my wife drinks that every single morning. I'm a huge advocate as well. I just can't get crazy with lectins in my own diet, but most likely you will have no issues. How do you know if you have, well, let's just put it this way. How do you know if you have a lectin issue? For me, I start to get a little bit of brain fog about 20 minutes after drinking it. My eyes start to close a little bit. I start to feel a little sleepy. My eyes get even a little bit itchy, and I get a little bit irritable. So again, I'm not that fun a person to be around when I have a high lectins in my diet. For the most part, no problem at all. It's lectin overload. I'll be talking about that in my upcoming book. A little bit here and there, no big deal. I can eat nightshades as well. A little bit here and there, no big deal. Just keep in mind, my immune system, my gut is, again, totally perfect now. Like literally totally perfect. Here's the deal though. I took over 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin, which is an antibiotic. Most people have not taken 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin in their life. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. But every year growing up as a child, I mean, literally sneeze and I'd be on a Z-Pack. Like, so that was it. And then from the ages of 14 to 17 straight, every single day for 1,000 days, I took 2 capsules of amoxicillin. So right there, you can say, okay, that's 2,000 capsules plus all the other amoxicillin I took every single year of my life, all through the winter. I mean, completely insane. It didn't stop after 17 as well, because again, I didn't realize this whole natural health thing and what it was doing to my gut until my early 20s, which is when I just stopped completely. And now I've been antibiotic free. And again, most people in my practice feel the same way. But so anyway, that's the pre-workout drink. What can it do for you? Well, literally so much. Let's just talk about green tea for a moment, because I want to tell you why I chose green tea specifically for you. So keep in mind, there's very little caffeine in green tea. There's about 40 milligrams, which would be, let's say it's about a quarter of a cup of coffee, or at the most, it would be like a third of a cup of coffee in terms of caffeine. But since it contains things like theobromine, it contains L-theanine, you don't get that spike, that sharp spike in that like cortisol. You get more of a gradual increase in energy and then a gradual drop, not a big spike and a let off. So that, of course, is really, really nice itself. Now, you can do decaffeinated green tea. There's actually, and I'll share with that because you can actually just do nutritional supplement based if you want, but that's not what I'm promoting today. So it has a little bit of caffeine, okay? that's a stimulant. Yes, it does help burn body fat as well. But the nice thing too is that green tea contains a type of phenol or antioxidant called catechins. And we know that green tea can help burn body fat, that can help boost the thermogenic effect outside of caffeine. And the reason is that we've studied green tea without the caffeine. So we've studied decaffeinated green tea and the catechins in green tea, and we still saw the thermogenic effect, which is pretty amazing. So the most important of all of those is EGCG, and that stands, I can never pronounce this correctly, but I'm going to do it anyways for you. It's called epigallocatechin gallate. And again, that's totally improper pronunciation. But if you're looking it up, you can look up EGCG and you can see specifically the main and most potent antioxidant in that. One thing I like to share is that EGCG, or let's just call them catechins in general, because there's more than one. That's very important that this will not work in isolation, is that it helps break down the enzyme that removes norepinephrine from your body. Let me say that in a little bit easier way. All right. So when your body gets a little spike of adrenaline, it gets a little boost of epinephrine, like a little spike of get up and go, fight or flight. What happens is your body can then catalyze that and just bring your body down to homeostasis. Well, using something like the antioxidant, the catechins in green tea, it actually helps to postpone that. So your nervous system still stays at a little bit more amped up, okay? And it also signals to start breaking down more fat, which is phenomenal, right? Burns more fat because you are in more of that get up and go state. So like anything we always say, would this be good for that high vata, high anxiety based type? No, probably not. But the L-theanine in green tea would certainly help. But certainly, again, we're talking about people looking to transform their body, looking to get a little boost in energy, not someone who doesn't really need the energy. Now, the other nice thing is that with the green tea or green tea extract with these catechins, studies have shown a 17% increase in fat burning, which is, again, pretty impressive in general. This led to, well, the equivalent, I believe it was about 60 to 80 calories per day. So it might not seem like a lot, but it really is. I mean, 60 to 80 calories per day really adds up. Now, if you're adding that to an exercise program, if you're adding that to a good nutrition diet, if you're adding that to initially lowering carbs a little bit and then easing them back in until you find your carbohydrate tolerance, studies showed average over 12 weeks. So over 3 months, the average person, by adding green tea extract or green tea into their daily plan, lost about 7.3 pounds. So 7 pounds extra over 3 months, that's nothing really to sneeze at. It's not. I mean, what's that? 2.5 pounds or so a month? That's not bad. That's just from taking in some extra green tea. Of course, you should do the exercise with it, right? That does matter. It's like, someone doing like anything and not putting in a little bit of the work to go along with it. So I always like to say, you do have to do a little bit of that exercise. Do stick with the nutrition as well. This might just be a really nice adjunct to that. So that is my recommendation. One of my favorite we'll call them biohacks, because this would actually be a little bit of a hack, is to use green tea before your workout or during your workout. You can just sip it right through that workout if you want. It will keep you warm, especially if you're someone that runs a little colder temperature-wise. This might be a huge benefit. Again, use the matcha green tea powder or those organic green tea bags. Add a little bit of daily fruit and vegetable blend if you'd like. Your choice, totally up to you. Add a teaspoon. Again, all these are optional now after the green tea, of raw local honey, just 1 teaspoon, or manuka honey, which I'll be doing a show about in the future. A pinch of sea salt to balance that potassium, and then a little bit of spice if you'd like. Little cinnamon, that helps with blood sugar, of course. So that would go great. And then potentially a little nutmeg for flavor too, if you like that spice. So those are some of my favorites and one that people have really enjoyed in my practice. Let's move on now to our super nutrient of the week. Okay, so let's get right down to our super nutrient for the day, for this week. And hopefully you checked out last week, because remember, every single week, we're bringing you a new super nutrient. Last week, you'll find out why vitamin K is so important to get on a daily basis. So check that out. And the week before that, check out the other super nutrient that we started with. So today's is molybdenum. And molybdenum is actually one of those unknown minerals that's very, very important for the function of our body. However, it's only needed in trace amounts. So what does that mean? Well, literally on a daily basis, we only need to get 45 micrograms to be functioning properly. However, that is just a general recommendation. And I'm going to share with you today why you might need double that or even triple that if you have certain dysfunctions within the body. So we'll get into that. Well, what is the point of molybdenum? What's it used for? And just before we even get into that, it's spelled molybdenum. So if you were just to look at it phonetically, it would be molybdenum. And so molybdenum is just how it's pronounced. Fun word to say. And usually, again, always gone through the diet, always on a typical basis. They find that the average American usually gets double what they need, just for meaning like the normal daily allowance that we're supposed to get. Okay, so what does it do? What's important for? Well, one of the big things right off the bat is that it helps us process carbohydrates and fats and actually use those as fuel. So very, very important. Allows that to actually be processed, used, and taken up by the cells as energy. It also helps with people who are specifically prone to uric acid or getting uric acid, whether it's from a breakdown in protein or carbohydrates, and not allowing that to build up to something such as inflamed joints or gout or any of those things. And that's because molybdenum also helps with the detoxification process. So the interesting thing is that some people, due to genetic-based issues with it's called sulfite oxidase. So it's essentially an enzyme that helps to break down a lot of these sulfur-based amino acids that we get in our body from foods or from nutritional supplements. And what happens is, because of certain genetic components within our body, we don't break down those sulfur-based foods or, again, nutritional supplements as well as we should. Well, molybdenum will actually help with that. It will help with the creation of this sulfite oxidase and lead to then a better breakdown, because too much sulfur floating around in the body can actually lead to neurological-based issues. So that's very, very important to look at that specifically as well. One other note that's just not very well known, those people who are deficient in molybdenum, this specific supernutrient we're talking about, can often end up with something, it is rare, but something called esophageal-based cancer. And so this is fairly well documented now, although, like I said, very, very rare, because very few people are not going to meet the 45 micrograms per day. Now, I always like to say is that we are predominantly going to get all the nutrition that we need through good, healthy, whole food. And so I always want to share with you where you're going to find the best sources of molybdenum. And that's going to be from things like beans and lentils. One of my favorite types of lentils is called split mung beans, or dal, D-A-L. And that is a great way to be able to get in lots of B vitamins, lots of nutrition, lots of fiber, lots of protein. It's used in Ayurveda through a traditional dish called khichdi. And that's an amazing thing. It actually helps with the intestines. It helps with detoxification. The only time you wouldn't want to use it would really be if there's a true lectin sensitivity, although sprouting and splitting those mung beans helps. And then also on the beginning of our Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, it is a prebiotic and has prebiotics in there. So you wouldn't use that in the beginning. Okay, so you can get it from legumes, beans, lentils, peas, your leafy green vegetables, cauliflower, potatoes. You're going to be able to get those foods will essentially have the molybdenum that you need on a daily basis. But again, some people can be deficient. And one of the people, or some of those people that I do find that are deficient, are those people who are not properly converting it well enough, meaning like their body is just not able to process the molybdenum, or they have higher levels of sulfur in the body and they actually just have a higher need. One group of people that I see very, very specifically in my practice are those people who are going through a detox, so meaning that their body is detoxifying faster, so it needs to be able to ramp up phase 2 detoxification to a greater extent in the liver. And in the liver, it's typically known that sulforaphane, which comes from broccoli and cruciferous-based vegetables, is what allows phase 2 liver-based detoxification to take place. That's essentially when we've already converted a fat-soluble toxin to an intermediary metabolite, and then it becomes a water-soluble toxin. I know I'm getting kind of deep here, but essentially what it means is that your body takes these very harmful things from the environment, and then it makes them not harmful by turning them into something water-soluble that you can then excrete out, just like you would extra B vitamins or extra vitamin C. It comes out through your urine, it comes out through your stool, or it can come out through your sweat, or you can kind of huff it off through the lungs as well. Urine, stool being the predominant way that we are able to get those toxins out of our body, which is why it's so important that you always have at least 1 bowel movement to 2 bowel movements per day. If you're not having a bowel movement on a daily basis, you are constipated, regardless of any type of thing that you read on Dr. Google. You should be having a bowel movement at least 12 hours to the maximum of 24 hours after you have a meal. So if you look at it, if you ate breakfast, well, by breakfast that next day, those toxins that you didn't use from the food should now be coming out of your body. Very, very important. Now, if someone's doing something like the Dr. Cabral detox, this is very important to add, you might not actually have a bowel movement on days 1 or 2 or maybe even day 3 because you are on a liquid diet for days 1 and 2. Remember, there's no bulk, there's no mass coming in. So just keep that in mind. That's not abnormal. That's not really constipation. You just literally didn't have a bowel movement because there was no whole food coming in. That's not that bad. Some people like to do a coffee enema. Some people do intestinal-based cleanse. Some people drink teas. It honestly does not matter. Your body's processing. It's moving. You're urinating from all the liquid that you're getting in your body. Sometimes people do saunas. It's all good. You're going to get that out of your body. All right. The other big thing, though, a very specific part of my practice that I see some people who need a little extra molybdenum is those going through Candida-based protocols and they're having a larger amount of die-off. Why would this be? Well, a lot of people, they brush off Candida as no big deal. Oh, it's a little extra yeast. It's a little extra fungus. That's not true. Because yeast itself, so fungus, Candida itself, the same thing that we test for on an organic acids test. So that's why it's always important to check for these things. If you're dealing with things like brain fog or muscle aches or muscle fatigue or joint pain or overall weakness, like flu-like symptoms, any type of lethargy like that, it can actually be from Candida die-off. And this is well studied. It's well studied. Just a lot of doctors and health practitioners don't take the time because this is not exactly the most exciting thing to study. But helping people is very exciting. Helping people get well, live the life they always wanted is really rewarding. So by going deep on this and helping people, you can kind of see how in the long run it is actually helpful. It is exciting. Well, Candida produces at least 79 toxins that we know about, okay? We test for the main ones on the organic acids test. That's why that lab I recommend. One of the toxins that are released is this thing called acetaldehyde. Now, acetaldehyde is really, really damaging the body. And again, not studied enough by health practitioners, and I can't recommend that enough. If you are a health practitioner, to study how Candida die-off, or just Candida itself, just Candida waste, you don't have to be doing a Candida protocol, can create this thing or buildup of acetaldehyde. Now, that can actually damage the nervous system. It can damage the respiratory, the immune system, cause brain fog and muscle fatigue. I had this really bad. It can also build up if you have like alcohol intolerance, if you don't do well after eating some bread products. It's not always just the gluten, right? It's oftentimes this thing called acetaldehyde. The body's not processing properly. The body needs molybdenum to actually act as a way to break down acetaldehyde. Now, again, there can be genetic-based inborn issues as well with why you don't process it as well, but it can also just be a buildup of yeast in the body. Well, so you need to be doing something specifically for the Candida protocol, but also molybdenum actually helps convert acetaldehyde, which can't be removed from the body. Remember, it's not an N-based product yet, all right? It has to actually be changed to acetic acid. And I know that I'm getting a little technical today, but this is very important. So some things you can't automatically just get rid of. Your body actually has to break it down to a smaller base particle that it can then remove easily. So the way that we do that is converting acetaldehyde through not just molybdenum, but that's one part of it, to acetic acid. Then the body can then actually excrete that, or it can actually be used as, an end product of that can be used as acetyl coenzyme A. Yes, that's exactly what it's used for. And then it can be processed to make hormones or ATP inside the cell. So really, really important. Plain and simple, this is what we use molybdenum for. It's used for detoxification. It helps the liver do its job properly. It enables you to turn fats and carbohydrates into energy and fuel. And what it does is it helps remove any type of Candida-based waste from the body. Now, again, the end goal should be get rid of the Candida, either do the organic acids test or do the Candida bacterial overgrowth protocol. But also, as you know, I've looked into this, right? This is my life's work. So in the daily nutritional support, so hopefully you're using the daily nutritional support shake powder, just like I do every morning. It is your all-in-one. It's your protein, which is vegan-based. It's your multivitamin. It is your minerals all in one. And even those trace minerals like boron and molybdenum, how much do we add? 75 micrograms. Why? Because you're already getting 45 micrograms most likely from your diet. You're adding another 75 micrograms just to be safe. Remember, the daily nutritional support is the way that you keep your body safe and healthy. It is what I call the feel safe. It makes sure that day, if you didn't have any beans or lentils or legumes or peas or green leafy vegetables or cauliflower or potatoes, that you have your bases covered. It also helps, obviously, the day after you might have had a couple cocktails the other night. So really, really important for that. Thank you once again for tuning into the show. I could literally talk about this all day. I do have to cut myself off. I appreciate it. Please feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could help. And I absolutely look forward each and every week coming back and sharing with you another super nutrient next Friday. So check that out. Looking forward to it. Take care. Tune back in for tomorrow's Cabral House Calls. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.